It's been a while since Oroco had a press release. So today they had a press release that about the updated PEA. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have one PEA on the left, one PEA on the right, and we're going to compare them. So the first one, it was published on October 17, 2023. So almost a year ago, and this one was published today. So let's compare it. As of today, Oroco announces 22.2 after-tax IRR and 1.5 billion NPV for Santa Thomas. Okay, so we got to compare apples to apples. Okay, so here's the highlights. The new one, 2.6 billion before tax. The old one, 2.3 billion pre-tax. So about 300 million improvement, okay? After tax, we have new one is 1.5 billion. The old one is about 1.2 billion. So again, 250 million, 350 million improvement. Nice, nice. IRR, internal rate of return. The new one is 30.3%. The old one is 23%. So big improvement, almost 50% improvement on the pre-tax. Post-tax, 22%, 22.2%. Old one, 17.3%. Significant improvement. Okay, then payback period. So a pre-tax payback period is 2.9 years. The old one is 4 years. Post-tax payback period is 3.8 years versus 5 years before. So payback period, what is that? Well, how much is it going to cost you to pay back your capex, from production? So under 4 years versus 5 years. Decent improvement. That's important. Payback is important. Initial capex is also important. So because how much money do you have to put up to put it into production? That's a big deal. Okay, these projects cost a lot of money to put them into production. So initial capex for the new report or for the new PEA is 1.1 billion, right? And then the old one was more than 1.3 billion. So more than 200 million improvement. That's a big deal. Annual cash costs. So the cost of producing 1.54 per pound versus 1.66. So the lower the cost, the better, because then when the commodities prices go down, you have a more margin of safety. Okay, then they're talking about the average grade for the first 7 years. It's 0.51%. They don't have this in the highlights here for the old report. Let's see what Richard Luck has to say. When we completed the initial PEA in December 2023, it was clear there was additional value to be unlocked. Upon careful analysis, a staged approach to the mine expansion and focus on exploiting a higher grade near surface material in the early years of mining has unlocked a considerable increase in value. We have established a plan that invokes a very efficient use of capital and established a rapid post-tax payback of 3.8 years. The plan starts with the use of smaller equipment to provide rapid entry to the mineralized material and maintain a higher grade feed profile to delay the requirement of an expansion until year 8. Copper equivalent production in the first 8 years is forecasted at 1.3 billion pounds at a mill feed average grade of 0.5% copper equivalent. Quite significantly, this work establishes Santo Tomas as one of the most capital efficient, large-scale, low copper projects in the world, as is illustrated below. So this makes Santo Tomas a more desirable asset, right? Because this is a graph that shows net present value versus the initial capex. So, for example, if your net present value is, let's say, 5 billion, but your initial capex is 10 billion, well, then this ratio is 0.5, right? You want this number to be as big as possible in relation to the initial capex. And that's what we have here. So Santo Tomas stands out, right? In the first PEA, it was here. It was like 1-to-1 or less than 1-to-1. And now we have close to 1.4 because the net present value is larger than the initial capex, right? So that makes it more, makes Santo Tomas as a project more attractive. Okay, and then few other things that are different. Not that different, but they are using a slightly higher price of copper. So if we look here, so about 4%, they're using 4% higher copper price. They used 385 in the old report. They're using 4 in the new report. So of course, it's not the improvement in the capex in the net present value is not all based on the fundamental improvements. Some of it is because of the copper price and also gold and silver price, right? Because they're using Mali, instead of 350, it's 15. Gold they were using 1,700. Now they're using 1,900. But remember, today price of gold is 2,500, more than 2,500. So the net present value is higher because all the metals today are higher than what they're showing here. And then silver, of course, they're using 24 here versus 22 and a half. The other stuff, is similar. Anyway, so that's it for this video. These are the main points for me. The report is better from the IR standpoint, from the NPV standpoint, from the after-tax IR, after-tax NPV is better, payback is better, initial capex is better. In other words, it's lower. And then an efficiency is better. In other words, the ratio between NPV and then the initial capex, it's much better than from the prior one. And because of this, Santo Tomas becomes as this here. As Richard said, this work establishes Santo Tomas as one of the most capital efficient, large-scale, low-cost copper projects in the world, as illustrated below. So now you can look at the after-tax NPV. You can compare it to the market cap. This is all in US dollars, so make sure when you look at the market cap, you look at the US dollars. Determine what the percentage of NPV a project like this can be acquired for. Look at the market cap, see if it's undervalued, and then you will be able to tell if you are getting a good deal by buying the stock in the open market.